Right. So as we discussed in our last session that a visual force page will primarily have the markups and the controllers. And then we talked about that there are different types of controllers, right? So if you talk about controllers, primarily you have a standard controller and a custom controller. Though there are four types of controllers, but we are not going into all four. So you have two options. Either you pick a standard controller. Standard controller is is a set of logic which is already written and which is used by the Salesforce standard pages, right? So either you use that. If you're using the standard controller, then what you have to do, you just have to call that controller and you don't have to write the instructions on your own. That's the good thing. So all that you need to do is you just need to call the controller. You don't need to write the instructions, and that's it. If you use a custom controller, then you have to write the instructions also. So the custom controller part is something that we will do later. We will start with the standard controller first. Okay. So every object that you have in Salesforce, every Salesforce object has a standard controller. Because every Salesforce object has some pages, okay, the page layouts and all. So every object in Salesforce has a standard controller also. Okay. Now, name of standard controller is same as name of object. Okay. So the name of the standard controller is exactly same as the name of the object. This has been done just to make sure that we don't get confused and we can easily follow the naming convention. So the standard controller for account is also called account. The standard controller for contact is called contact. So that's how it has been kept. All right. So that's how it is. Now, when you're designing a Visualforce page, I'll come back to the Visualforce page. When you're planning to create a Visualforce page, you have to decide on for which object you want to design the page. All right. So if you're creating a Visualforce page, you decide on the controller. So before deciding on the controller, you will have to look into for which object you want to create that page. What data do you want to display on that particular page, right? So if you want to design a page for account, then you should call the account standard controller. If you want to design a page for contact, then you should call the contact standard controller. Got it? So as simple as that. So that's how we are going to keep it. Moment, let me just log in. Okay, so I'm going to create a Visualforce page here, and what's the best way of creating the Visualforce page? All that I need to do is just go into the URL, delete everything after salesforce.com, slash So apex slash page name. That is it. Okay. Now it throws this error, page does not exist, and it doesn't allow me the option to create the page. What can be the reason? Anyone? What can be the reason? You can just type it in the chat window also. It gives me the error, but it does not allow.
Standard mode.
Development mode is not enabled. Right? That's something that we thought of. That's something that I told you have to do first, right? So the account that I got logged in does not have the development mode enabled, right? So let's just go back and get into the other account. I think we logged in into the wrong account. Log out. Just the one that I did. See, in this account, development mode is selected or enabled, and this is how it looks. You get the error, along with the error you have the option of creating the page. So I'll just go ahead and create the page. Now let's say I want to design this page for account. So I should call the account standard controller on this page. Okay, as I said yesterday, controllers are to be called as an attribute of the Apex page component. Alright. So if you're using a standard controller, there's an attribute called standard controller. Which standard controller you want to call on this page, you have to call it as an attribute of the page component. What is the name of the account standard controller? It's account only. Okay. So what I've done is I have connected this Visualforce page to the account standard controller, which means now I can call the data from the account object here, and I can use the logics defined in the standard controller, standard account controller page. For example, I want to display the name of the account. So if you want to display a particular field from account, this is going to be the formula. Okay, within curly brackets, exclamation mark, controller name or object name, because both are same, dot field name. Got it? So this is going to display you the name of the account. For the line break, I say account dot industry. Account dot phone name industry phone. Okay. Let me not put the standard controller, and let me just write this here. Try to save this. It throws an error. Why? It says unknown property. It doesn't understand what is this. Why? The reason is because I've not yet defined the controller. I can call account.name only when I have defined the controller. Okay. So we'll define the controller here. equals account. Now if you try to save it, this file is from. Okay, now it does not have a problem. Alright, now it's fine. The code does not have a problem. It knows what is account.name, what is account.industry, what is account.phone, because it can connect to the controller. But interestingly, it does not show me any data. I mean, ideally, we were expecting an account name here, right? To be displayed here. But surprisingly, it does not show us any information here. What can be the reason for that? The reason for that is pretty simple. That out of so many accounts that you have in the account object, which account are you talking about? Okay, so we have gone to the controller and we have asked for a field, but nowhere we have mentioned that which record we are talking about, right? So my system doesn't know which account's name to be shown here. They can, let's 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 account records in the database. Out of all those, which account name you are trying to show? That has not been mentioned here anywhere. And that's the reason why you don't see an output here. Alright? Now, that part, which account you want to show, is something that we are not going to mention here in the code. Okay, which account we want to see will not be mentioned in the code anywhere. We will supply the ID of the record to try and understand this. We'll supply the ID of the record which needs to be displayed on the URL. So it will pick the ID from the URL and display the data here. Alright, why we are not putting the ID here? Because if we put the ID here in the code itself, then it becomes a hard-coded program. So, this program then will work only for one record. But if you keep the ID as a parameter and keep it in the URL, then the same code will work for all account records. So for example, this is the record. All that you have to do is you just have to supply the ID in the URL. Press enter. See, we got information of the record. Yeah. If you change the ID of the record, if you select some other record, okay, this is Dickinson. I'll pick the ID of this record. I'll put it here. See, after the page name, question mark ID equals, and then paste the ID. Press enter. So now this part is changing. So the value on the page changes or gets updated with the ID in the URL. Right. So that's the reason why the ID was not mentioned in the code. Code is going to be this only static. So this is a generic code which has been created. Now when you change the or update the ID in the URL, the entire page content gets updated. Okay, so the page basically will pick the ID and display you the account name, industry, and phone from account. Got it? So the standard controller page is meant for a single record. Okay, so record detail page, one single records detail page can be created using standard controller, and that's what we are doing here. If you look into this is a page meant for a single record. Okay, which record? It can be any record from account object, provided the ID is given in the URL. Got it? So that's how it works. So standard controller page is meant for a single record, and that's the reason why to get any information in the page, you always have to supply the ID of that record, which record detail you want to show on this particular page. Correct? So in standard controller, when I say it is for single record, so that for you're connecting it to which object, that depends on the standard controller. What all fields you want to display, that is something that you have written here called the fields, right? Whatever fields you want to call, and which record you want to display, that is something which is kept out of the program, just to make sure that uh, the same code works for all record IDs. This is to be entered in the URL. That's it. Alright, so that's how the connect is. Now, on the same lines, let me just go ahead and create a page for contact so that you guys understand it a little better. So I'll just go ahead and create a page. This time standard controller equals contact. First name contact dot first name last name contact dot last name email. Okay, so this time I've designed a page for contact which will show me the first name, last name, email ID of a contact, but currently it's not showing any information. What does it need? It requires an ID in the URL. Just pick the ID from here, go in here, see, scene force. This is a record for which we selected the ID, so we are able to display the information on the page. Alright, so that's how we create the page. Let me know if anyone has a question or doubt here. So, alright, so we'll start working with a few more components, and we will see a few more components here. So I'll create another page with account standard controller. put a page block. There's an attribute called title. Comment basic info, where you just want to display the name. Count dot You have to make sure you're using the correct spellings and all. See. Okay. So I've used a page blog, and then I'm trying to display name, industry, phone type, and all these things. No, I don't see the information displayed. Let me just go ahead and pick a record, account record, take the ID of it. Question mark ID. Yes. Okay. So this is what shows me the basic information about the contact. All right. Now we have used the page block component here. All right. If you need to display information from a few fields, then this option is a good option. You know, calling fields one by one, like the way we did here: account.name, account.industry. Sometimes you might want to call all the fields. Okay. In that case, you can use another component which is called apex detail. This one component will call the information from all the fields. This standard page, whatever fields it has, all this information will be displayed if you just call this one component. See, this is what we have written in the page block, and after the page block your apex detail component starts. See, the page block part is this, and after that apex detail, one single component can bring all the details of that particular record. You know, whichever ID it has in the URL, it will display you full details of that record. See, full details of the record along with the related list. You see the related list also. A related list is list of child records, right? Like for example, contacts is a related list of account. Opportunities is also a related list of account. That's all it is. That's what we have here. In case you don't want to see the related list, if you just want to see the details of the accounts and you don't want to see these related lists like contact, opportunities, cases, then all that you have to do is you just have to go and define an attribute in the detail component which is called related list, and it's a boolean, so you just have to set it to true or false. By default it's true. I set it to false, save it. See, so the related list are not displayed. Okay, you would also notice that Then once we call the detailed component, the apex detail component, this title has also appeared here. If you don't want this, you can remove this also. Title false. See this? The basic info and then account details appear here. Right? Okay. Now I have made the related list equals false, which means all the related lists have been removed from this page. What if I just want one of the related lists? In the standard page, there are so many related lists available. If I just want to make one related list visible, then what do I do? Then you have an option of using another component which is called related list. Okay, so this related list component has an attribute called list. In this attribute, you have to define which list you want to display. Display contacts. See, now it allows me to show only one related list. In case I want to show opportunities, then I should write list equals opportunities. And you will see a list of opportunities, the related list for opportunities here. Alright. If you want one more related list, let's say you want to display cases as well, then all that you can do is you can call one more related list component, and here you can make list equals cases. Right? So that's how we are basically controlling the page. Now you would see or you would notice that the components that are defined in Salesforce, if you're using those components, it automatically takes care of the styling of the page, which is a very good thing. Okay, that you really don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about the styling and all that part. Your components are such that they will allow you or they will help you build a very neat and clean looking page. So we did not spend any time on styling. I do not know how many of you have done HTML, spend some time with HTML, but usually once we start writing HTML code and we start writing initial bit of it, uh, there's one problem that your code usually looks very, the page output usually looks very ugly. When I say ugly, I mean it doesn't look, things are not properly ordered and the things are not, they do not have the proper alignment and all that stuff, right? But here at least that part is being taken care of automatically. So that's a good thing. So while you're creating a page on Visualforce, you just have to focus on what data you want to display, how you want to display the data. We don't need to spend too much of time thinking about the look and feel, because automatically it picks up the standard look and feel of the Salesforce. All right, yeah. If you just want something else, something different from what Salesforce standard look and feel is, then you might have to spend a bit of time on that, but again, that's very rare. When I say very rare, I really mean very, very rare. One out of 1000 cases will tell you that I need this background in a blue color or something like that. Usually people will not say that. People will be fine with the standard Salesforce um, look and feel, right? So that's the good thing here. So All that we have to focus is we just have to focus on the best way of displaying the data which can be used by the end users. We don't have to spend too much time on controlling the styling of the page, right? So we just looked into three components. In fact, the page block, we did the detail component, and we also did the related list component. Now there's a small thing, I don't know if you guys noticed. The list name is opportunities, and here the list name is cases. How would you get the list name? How would you understand what is exactly the list name? Is it opportunity or opportunities? Why is it not opportunity? Why is it opportunities? So how will we get that name? From where are we getting that particular thing? That's what we have to understand. Okay. So where will you understand that? If I say there is a related list contacts under account, try and understand this from where you are going to pick the list name. So if there's a relationship between account and contact, that's the reason why related list has come, right? So if there's a relationship between account and contact, there will be a relationship name also. Then when there's a relationship, there is going to be a relationship name as well. And that relationship name is what you have to write here in the list. List equals to relationship name. Okay. Now if you're wondering where do I find the relationship name? So to find the relationship name, you just have to go to the relationship field. So account and contact relationship field will be on which object? On account or contact? If I have a relationship between account and contact, account being parent and contact being child, the relationship field will be on which object? On account or contact?
Contact.
Contact. So I'll go to contact fields. There's a relationship field called account name. Click on this field and see the child relationship name, contacts. Okay. So in this case, I told you contacts, opportunities, cases. But if you are not sure what should be your list name, then just go ahead and check it from the relationship field. Go to the relationship field, check the relationship name, and that's all you have to display here. In this case, it's going to be opportunities. Let me quickly check the relationship field. So relationship name for account and opportunity. So it should be an opportunities. Click on fields. There's the field. Relationship name is opportunities. So that's the reason why we say opportunities here. Okay. So the list equals to the relationship name. All right. So that's the logic. Okay. So I'll create one more page with the same related list concept, but I'll use one more component called a page block section. If we just use the page block, a page block section will let you further break the page block into smaller sections, and it will also help you design the layouts. Page block has an option of putting a title into this. You can also put a dynamic title. Always don't have to put a static one. You can put account name also as a title. Founder name. And then as listen. Okay, let me just go to accounts. Take a record ID. Question mark ID equals. Okay. Now, inside the page block, you can create some page block sections also. Another good thing about Visualforce is when you start typing, there is this, what is this called? IntelliSense. Yeah. So this option actually, the moment you're typing, you already automatically start getting the options of the list of components. So even if you don't remember, the full name, still you can select from here. Okay. So it's going to be a page block section. So page block section is like a page block only, but it is used inside a page block to make further sections. So you can just create a page block section. Put a title for it. Base and enter this information inside the section. Alright. So I've created a page block, and inside the page block I've created a section. You see this? Now this page block section by default has a collapsible header. Okay, which means you can collapse or expand it. It's a default functionality with the page block section. In case you don't need it, there's an attribute on the page block section component which is called collapsible, and you should make it false. Okay. Now let me create another page block section. Text page block section, and in the page block section I'll put contact info. So this is phone text. Right. Again, if you don't want this to be collapsible, just go and say collapsible equals false. All right. Now let's say I want to create one more section here, and I call it detail info. I'll make collapsible false. And in detail info, all that I'm going to do is I'm just going to include the detail of the the detail component, because rest everything detail component is going to take care of, right? Related list equals false. Okay. In this one, I'll keep the collapsible option on the detail info. Right. So I have now three sections here. One is the page block. Inside that there is a section called basic info. There's another section called contact info. There's another section called detail info. There's a small challenge with the detail info section. Basically, there's a challenge with all these sections, but you can see it on the detail info. The problem with the detail info is that out of the entire page which is available, it is just occupying half of it and it's keeping the other half blank. That is the problem here. Out of the entire page, it's just occupying half of the page and keeping the other half blank, which is not a good idea. Okay, why is it doing so? The reason is that a section, page block section by default has two columns. By default, it has two columns. When you put some information inside it, the information goes. The first part of information will go into the first column. The second component will go into the other column. So this detail component has got into the first column. Okay, which makes your page look really weird, right? Because this half is of no use. Not able to utilize this. So you don't have to worry. All that you have to do is, this is a two column section. You just have to go and make it a single column section. So there's an attribute on page block section called column equals to 1, and save it. There's an attribute in the section called columns equals 1. You can just go ahead and save it. And that's it. Okay, so now it is occupying the entire space. The same problem is with these two cases also, but that's not visible because the length is very short. So you did not realize that. So page block section always has two column by default. You can make it 3, you can make it 4, and you can make it 1 as well, right? So if you just want to include one component inside your page block section, then it makes sense that you just restrict it to one single column, right? Okay, so that's what we are going to do today. We'll keep it here. Tomorrow, once we meet, we are going to do a few more examples on the standard controller and understand a little more about the standard controller and how it works. Right.